Hello, welcome to Chapter 15 for Business Math called Sales. We're on Lesson 15.1 called Markup. All right, make sure, as always, you're reading through the lesson, looking at the examples, the formulas they're giving you, how are they using the formulas. Pay attention to the terminology that's within the lesson. It's very important to understand what's going on in these problems, not just working through the math and getting an answer, but actually understanding what's happening in the problems. It's important for some of the pieces here when we get a little bit more intricate. Um, so that being said, let's go ahead and read the summary here. So we have a common business practice is to sell a product at a higher price than its cost or the amount you paid for it. The difference is the markup. So if you've ever wondered when you go to the store and you pay a certain amount for an item, that is not what the store pays for it. They pay probably a much lower price for it and they marked it up so they make money off of it. If they sold it to you for the same price they bought it for, you wouldn't make any money. So it's definitely more than just common business practice to do this. It's usually what happens. The only time that it's not a markup is if they're trying to maybe dump off items that aren't selling or it's discontinued, something along those lines. They're just trying to get rid of it. But normally, it's very common to have something marked up pretty decently high from what you bought it for. All right, so the markup equals the selling price minus the cost. So whatever they're selling it to you for minus what it costs them to buy it. So this first bit is very, very simple. I'm not going to do the calculations for you. I'll just kind of go through and look at the table 1 through 7. So we have our selling price, we have our cost. We're literally just going to subtract, and that's our markup. That is literally all we have to do on this one. Super duper easy, no issues. Hopefully with this one, and these equal signs are not coming out terribly great. I don't know what's wrong with my pen there. All right, so let's look at number 8 and 9. They're just word problems, but exactly the same idea. You're going to be giving a selling cost, and you're going to be or selling cost, sorry, a selling price and a cost, and you're just going to subtract the two. So the cycle shop buys new bikes for $289.40. So this is what they buy them for. This is their cost. The bikes are sold for $482. So this is the selling price. So we're just going to subtract. And what's the markup? So no big deal there. Same thing on number 9. And let's look at this other table here. I got my way there. Wouldn't let me go up. All right. So you work at your local supermarket in the dairy department. Compute the cost per item and the markup per item. So with this one, they're just giving you number in a case. So we don't always buy things by item, especially stores. They'll buy a whole case of it. And we want to know by item, how much does it cost before we start selling it? Because most people don't come and buy a whole case of, say, cream cheese. They're going to buy a single block of cream cheese, right? One block, not a whole case of it, because how many people can eat that much cream cheese? So what we want to do is we want to divide so that we know the cost per item. So we have a much smaller cost here. And then here's the selling price. We have the cost. Quite literally, again, we're just going to subtract these two amounts. I'm going to put the minus sign here. Keep in mind that these are actually backwards from the way they should. We should do the selling price minus the cost so that we have a positive number here. Not that we're always going to have a positive number because, like I said, depending on what if they're just trying to dump off the items and they don't necessarily care if they marked it up. Maybe they're selling it for less than their cost if they just want to get rid of them. But you should always do the selling cost or selling price minus the cost. So keep that in mind. This is a little backwards writing it this way, but it just gives you the idea. You're subtracting these two and you get your markup. So you're going to do that across. You're going to divide by the number per case and then subtract selling price from the cost to get your markup. Number 11 and 12, exactly the same idea here as the table. So we have Silver Auto Market pays $29.98 for a 24 count case of bottled water. So this is how much they pay for the case, and sells the water for $2.29 per bottle. What is the markup per bottle? Um, so we need to know how much do they pay per bottle. We're literally going to do the same thing we did up here. We're going to have $29.98 and we're going to divide by 24. And that'll tell us how much they pay per bottle. And then once we know how much they pay per bottle, we already know how much they sell it for per bottle. We just have to subtract the selling price from the cost so that we know the markup. Down here, same idea. Harborview Community Market pays $523.20 for a pallet load of Kleenex tissues. So most people are not going to buy the whole pallet. We need to break this down so that it's not a full pallet. So the pallet holds 60 cases, and there are 8 boxes per case. So people very well might buy a case of them, especially like shopping in a place like Costco. I know I've done that before where I buy kind of a bigger case of them and they just kind of go in the closet instead of just buying an individual box. So first what we want to do, because we want to know what is the markup per case. So we take the 532 and divide by 60. That tells us what the cost is per case for the company. And then we're gonna take this 10.99. They already told us it's 10.99 per case. That's how much they sell it for. So we're just gonna subtract those two amounts once we've divided and we know how much it costs them per case. What is the markup per box? So you could do this 2 different ways. You can divide by 60 to get the cost per case and then divide that by 8 to get the cost per box. And then you could also divide 10.99 by 8 to get the selling price per box and then subtract those two amounts. Or you could simply divide the markup per case that we calculated here by 8 because that'll just tell you that it evenly distributes that markup over the 8 boxes. You'll actually get the same answer either way. That's definitely an easier calculation. Just divide this guy by 8. But if for whatever reason you didn't see that, you could always do it kind of the longer way there, where you're just breaking this number down into 60 and then into 8, and then breaking this down into 8 and subtracting those two amounts there. All right, so that is all of section 1. I hope that helped, and I will see you in section 2.